Welcome back. The communities in the Bronx have made countless contributions to the culture, the fiber, and the fabric of New York City. Yet as a result of decades of underinvestment in the borough, it's experienced some of the worst economic and health ramifications from the pandemic. Now, the Bronx will require investments from the city in both the short and the long term in three key areas: housing, employment, and food justice. This according to the new council member-elect, Marjorie Velazquez of District 13. She joins us now on the Social Justice Forums. And council member, congratulations and welcome to the Social Justice Forum.
Thank you so much. It feels really, really, really good to hear it. It still shocks me.
Yeah, I mean, it feels real, right? I think that you're on the cusp. You'll be sworn in come January. But talk to us about what that feeling is like, really, for you being able to be now the council member of District 13.
Well, I'm still feeling it, right? Part of it is extreme excitement. It's historic in that I will be the first person of color, given that my family came in from Puerto Rico directly into this district. And now I'm going to represent the same district that gave me and my family an opportunity. And now, just like that experience for all the families that are coming here, with that experience, now we can build this different quilt, if you will, of District 13 and showcase what Latina leadership looks like and how we could all work together and our experiences unite us. It doesn't divide us. And so giving that exciting opportunity and just letting folks understand how historic this is. And here we are, 2021, full circle. Can't wait.
So share with us a little bit from your perspective about where things are with regards to housing. I know that housing is a big issue in your district. We see the development of housing and the question about affordable housing. But give us your perspective on what you're seeing as far as your district, and how would you like to see the housing issue play out?
Well, for folks, we have several. So this district varies, right? We have apartment buildings in certain sections of the district, and certainly other sections are either single family homes or multiple family dwelling units. And so having that opportunity to have that conversation, especially with single family homeowners who have had challenging times during COVID. Those families that have been impacted by the hurricane with Ida, understanding that those changes that need to happen, right? With climate change, are they protected? Are we looking at our sewers correctly? Have we been holding the city accountable with not only the cleanup, but the construction that led to that? Is our infrastructure ready for more development is also a question that we really have to take the city to task, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, and when we look at development in your area, are you satisfied with what you're seeing in terms of, is it overdevelopment or is it underdevelopment when you look at your district?
Certainly, there are areas of our district which don't have the infrastructure to sustain any development, right? And so we need to really work with the community and see what those challenges are before we go ahead and try to talk about development. And it is literally sitting down, knocking on doors, just like I did, right? It is a campaign to make sure that families are aware of their opportunities into housing. And my dream, my goal, is to have families own their properties, own their condos, own their co-ops, own their apartments, because homeownership allows for the development of generational wealth.
Yeah, and when we talk about home ownership, so many people in the Bronx talk about property value and the property value and the quality of life, and how quality of life is really, it can play an important part in improving a person's home value or deteriorating the home value. When you look about the quality of life in the area, what do you see?
There are challenges, right? Where we are looking at making sure that our streets are clean, making sure that our potholes are filled. Those are priorities of mine. Also, when we're working with our small businesses, it's not just to let them survive. We need to invest in them and make sure that they thrive. And by that, I can't handle having empty storefronts, right? I don't want my folks to go to Westchester. I don't need my folks to go to Long Island for stuff that they can get here. And it is convincing folks that we can do this together. And it's not going to be an easy task. But you know what? My small businesses deserve that. And my small businesses deserve a champion that will go door to door to our businesses and say, how can we do this together? It is also making sure that the bids that are here have a voice, and that they are working together with the different merchant groups, right? It's all of us. It's on all of us. It's not a one person thing, because that's not what I ran on. I ran on everyone being invested in here, because if we're not investing in ourselves, then what are we really doing?
Yeah. Really getting your voice out there, getting a chance to talk to the public and the community. You've always been in the community. And I know that one of the issues that we're talking about is this issue of food insecurity, because as we saw COVID running rampant, we saw more and more people actually coming out, needing food. Some people just, the issue of hunger and food insecurity. Give us your assessment as to what you're seeing with food insecurity, and then we'll talk about how we can handle it.
So it's still here. Just because the rates of COVID are changing doesn't mean that the need has changed, right? If anything, we've seen an increase because of the pandemic having this real shock into our economy. And families have lost jobs. Families are still struggling to find meaningful, well paying jobs, right? And so, what we really need to look forward to, and this is something that I look forward to working with my federal and state electeds, is making sure that we're accessing our families and making sure that we're providing fresh, whole, great, good foods where they can be met, right? Looking at our community based schools as a start. During the pandemic, we were giving out these ready to go meals from our schools. What are we doing now for our children? How do we address our children not only in the beginning of the school day, making sure that they have their breakfast, their lunch, but what are they taking home? Can we work together with our families and provide a pantry within schools, provide, I know right here in the Bronx, we have a couple of organizations that every Wednesday and Saturday, right, out of St. Benedict's, provide food for our families, right? So let's do that. Let's keep that, making sure that we're fully funding our pantries, making sure that we're working with our religious institutions, right? A lot of folks that I've seen during the pandemic turn to their churches for assistance. So having that conversation with our different clergy members to make sure that we're working together. Once again, this is not a me thing. This is an all us thing. And so unfortunately, the reality is the pandemic has left us with a lot to clean up, but we're here for it. And no person should ever go hungry. So please understand, if you are out there and you need food, there are resources within the city. Feel free to contact our office at 347-878-2026. We will connect you. Also, there are a lot of groups out there not only handing out meals, right? We have city meals that really does help our seniors that are homebound. And then you have several other groups out there. So we could always help connect. You should not go hungry. And we are here invested in making sure that you are whole.
Any concern on your part? I know you haven't taken office yet, but I know that sometimes we have these budget cuts across the city and access to resources, whether it's on a state level or on a city level. Sometimes these organizations that really got these boots on the ground, the grassroots organizations that are really, really impacting people, sometimes are the first ones that end up on the cutting line. Any concern on your end that as we enter the 2022, that we may not be necessarily we may lose focus of where we are in this area?
Certainly, we've been blessed because of the investment, the federal investment. So we did get a lot of money from the federal government that is going to come our way. As you've seen, President Biden has been able to help us out in that these packages that have recently been signed do allow for the investment back into our state. Which will roll into our city and definitely into our district, because as folks know, I am an accountant, so I know how to make sure that our district is getting the best of the best. But you are right. Oftentimes people look to cut, but let me let you know, it won't be cut for me. What we're doing is making sure that our families come first and making sure that we are really invested in our families. And it takes a lot, it takes a village, but I look forward to working with all our partners, right, in state and federal government to make sure that we are whole, to make sure that our families do not go hungry, that they are unhoused. None of that is going to happen, right? We are working diligently to make sure that families are protected, because at the end of the day, we are in the holiday season, and it really should bring back the focus as to why we are here in these offices. It's to make sure that our families have a roof over their heads, food on the table, that they are clothed, and we should be working towards that goal for all our families.
Well, I know I want to revisit what you spoke about earlier. When you spoke about things, you spoke about the possibility of people taking their business to Long Island, taking their business to Westchester, and even, let's be honest, New Jersey and Connecticut. When people aren't satisfied with finding resources at home, they actually go abroad. You spoke a little bit about having people being able to patronize small business. We know that small business is the lifeblood. It's the lifeblood of America, the city, and it's the lifeblood of our borough. What do you see in terms of being able to improve small businesses and to be able to get them up to speed so that way our communities can become more viable?
Well, it's working with banks to make sure that we're providing meaningful grants and opportunities, loans when we're educating our small businesses on loans and grants that are out there, making sure that they have access, right? When we need to make our access and opportunities more equitable to our small businesses. We need to be meaningful. We're meaning to go out there door to door to our small businesses and say, this is what is out there. This is how we're going to do it together. Also making sure that the agencies that are assigned to our small businesses are not just at first finding and giving our businesses penalties without giving them a good amount of time to make whole, right? It's one thing that there is an incident and you need to find them, but did you walk through the business and understand that? Did the agency make it proper? And it's holding these agencies accountable, and that's what I'm looking forward to. It's having these really tough conversations with our small businesses and the agencies, because what we saw during the pandemic were that 1 minute one agency was in charge of this, the next day this agency was in charge of that, and it's confusing to anyone. And certainly during the pandemic, having agencies compete against each other, and then on top of that, you're going to ask an owner who is dealing with hiring new folks to deal with all these changing agencies, and how were they educated on these changes, who assigned them. These are the conversations that we really need to have with our small businesses, and were they given a proper opportunity to make whole? And most of the times it's not. And that's why I rallied with actually a couple of weeks ago with the Latino Restaurant Association, when we were saying that these fines have to be better. When we're looking at SLA, right? And that's not a city agency, that is a state agency. And we need to be better with our small restaurants when we're talking about how they just stopped. Remember the alcohol to go, that there is a process that is not helping our small businesses. We really visit these processes to make sure that it is something that my businesses can do and do better. It's not just literally dumping things on them last minute as well. And when we're looking at the board of SLA, making sure that it's someone from within the business that understands the challenges, right? You just can't keep on having just folks that don't identify within the business trying to set these rules for a business. It just doesn't work. And so we have to make sure that these changes within SLA happen, so that way our small businesses, our small restaurants thrive.
Are you optimistic, given the fact that we will be seeing a new mayoral administration as you get set to take office? A new mayor will actually take office. And yeah, a lot of optimism has been said with regards to Eric Adams by way of services and understanding the culture and the dynamic of the outer boroughs. How do you feel about the new mayor coming in? And are you optimistic that you'll be able to accomplish a lot of things?
So I've had the opportunity to meet the incoming mayor, and I like the fact that he wants to work with us. He wants to understand what the district needs are and be here. And that's the first part, right? You got a great partner when they show up, and him being here, him understanding the district and knowing the district is the first step. The next step is, how do we hold him accountable, and how do we make sure that the agencies are delivering? And that's something I want to work with him on. And it's just a continuing conversation and making sure that he just doesn't miss it one time, it's multiple times. And I look forward to it.
Yeah. And so for you, first priority when you get into office, what are you looking to do?
Oh, good stuff, right? When we're looking at making sure that our families are made whole, it's looking at kind of like what you mentioned, right? Looking at our small businesses, making sure that we're providing avenues for them to thrive. That means meeting with them one-on-one, which I have been doing, meeting with the different agencies and having that conversation. Also meeting with the different banks that are within our district. What we have seen is a lot of our brick and mortar banks have been disappearing, and it's led to actually smaller banks coming up. So why is it that our largest banks are leaving, but these smaller ones are coming up and staying? That's a conversation we also have to have in making sure that there's real opportunities, not only for our small businesses that the banks will help, but it's also giving my senior citizens an access to go to drop off and make their deposits and their cash withdrawals, right? It's having that one-on-one, and removing a large bank out of the blue doesn't help us. It's making sure that we're really taking care of our businesses, but also our folks, right? Our senior citizens that have lived their lives here, that should have their services met, and we're not taking things away. Also, when we're looking at funding for our senior centers, I want to make sure that we're not only restoring it, but that we're providing meaningful programs, right? I have a lot of great active seniors who love their Zumba classes. So I'd like to go ahead, not only dance with them with the Zumba, but it's also making sure that the programs fit. When we're looking at our children, making sure that they are having the best access. This is the first time our schools are going to be fully funded. What does that look like? Are we really going to do programs that invest not only in them and their education, but we're looking at their full on development, making sure that the after school programs really mean something to them, and not only them and their parents, but also what can the community do to build up on that. And I am so excited. I am going to have an Orchard Beach and the pavilion coming up, making sure that that process and that development continues strong, and working together with Borough President Vanessa Gibson, and making sure that our families have a great time and having the programs there. So that way, we're not looking at Orchard Beach as a summer destination, but we're looking at it as a year-long destination, and that we have meaningful programs for all.
Well, I say it, there's a new mayor that's coming in, Eric Adams, a new borough president, Vanessa Gibson, and a new counselor in District 13, Marjorie Velazquez. Congratulations again. Happy holidays. Great to have you here on the Social Justice Forums and hearing what you see coming up for your district. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
All righty. Listen, we got more show. We don't encourage you, please don't go anywhere. We're talking more on the Social Justice Forums. We'll be back. Just going to take a quick break.